I have a really special guest for you right now. I want to welcome to the show a new acquaintance of mine, Richie Romano, former NYPD movie producer. How are you?
Hi, David. Thanks for having me. I'm great.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. So you have a diverse career, right? You are former NYPD. Yes. And I want to get your perspective on what's going on in the city a little, broken windows and all that, okay. Not being in effect, and it should. Talk about maybe your movie production that's going on. You already released a movie. You have another one coming out.
Yes.
And you have family that's very famous. Ray Romano's your brother. Tell us how Everybody Loves Raymond was named.
Oh, you want to hear that story?
Sure, sure.
Okay, so I was an NYPD officer and sergeant for 20 years. I loved my job. I'm a professor now, and I tell my students, you have to pick a job. Don't worry about the money. Pick a job which you love, which you're passionate about. And for me, that was being a police officer. It might sound a little corny, but I love being a police officer and helping people. So during my days as NYPD officer, obviously it was the 80s and 90s, and it was pretty hectic at times until broken windows came along. And one day, I'm with my family. We're at the actual Thanksgiving table, and it's me and Ray. Before Ray had his show, he was a comedian, pretty good comedian, and another brother of mine, Robert, and my parents. And Raymond, of course, was the life of the party, telling jokes and making everybody laugh, and just like,
yeah.
And my mother, you know, mothers being what they are, she sees that I'm being left out, you know, and she looks at me and she says, so Richard, why don't you tell us something about, you know, what happened at your job? What's going on with you? And I just said, I wanted to make a point, just a funny point. I said, well, Ma, here's the thing. I go to work and people they spit at me. They try and stab me. They try and shoot me. They basically hate me. And then I looked at my brother and I said, but Raymond goes to work? Well, everybody loves Raymond.
Well, that's really a great story background. But, you know, so you're an accomplished guy, right? You're former NYPD. You're a university professor. You teach criminal law, criminal justice, pre-law. You have a lot of unique experiences, and you also have a movie background. But I want to get into broken windows, right? So when Bill Bratton came in under Giuliani, you know, I watched it. I participated in New York being turned around with a builder and builders that were doing the anchor revitalization, where they got federal seed money, federal loan guarantees to build and take risks in Harlem, 116th and Lenox, Brooklyn, Mermaid Avenue, Flatbush, you know, Fulton Broadway corridor, all these bad areas. And we like turned around the city with Giuliani. And the other part of it was the crime. So why was Broken Window so effective?
Well, you're right. I mean, I was a police officer during the heyday in the 80s when it was close to 3,000 homicides a year. It was shootings all over the place. I worked in a high crime area. I was a squad sergeant and police officer and squad sergeant. And it was out of control. And then Bratton comes in and Giuliani, and, you know, most of us street cops, we didn't want to even get involved in politics. We were just trying to stay alive, so we didn't give it too much mind. And then he brought this procedure in called broken windows, where all of a sudden we were going now to arrest the low-level drug dealer. We were going to arrest the panhandler. We were going to address the graffiti and all that. And with the theory being that if these minor crimes are addressed, then it gives the community a sense that the police are here. And the theory is that if these minor crimes are addressed and they're enforced, the laws are enforced, it will prevent major crimes from happening. And it sure did, as the stats point out.
Also about, though, if you were caught jumping a turnstile, chances are you had a warrant or a weapon on you. And they actually solved serial killer crime from that.
Yes, that's a good point. Anybody who was going to commit a crime, even if it was minor, knew that they were going to be apprehended. And if there was a warrant out for them, then we would find out. And if they had a gun on them, we would find that gun. So they left the guns home, and they stopped doing these even minor crimes because they knew we were going to address it. And like you said, Dave, we were going to run their name, and if there's a warrant out for something more serious, they were going to jail.
Didn't you have community policing back then too?
Yes, we did. And I was a police sergeant in community policing in the 23rd Precinct in Harlem for 2 years. I was right there doing it. I loved it. I had 15 officers in my unit. All my guys were on the street. They all had their little sectors, and it was great. We knew the community. I thought it was the best thing. It was a couple of the best years I had on the job.
Yeah, well, it's a good perspective, and we lived it, and we saw it. And, you know, back in, like, 96, you can go up into the Upper East Side, 116th Street, down to, like, 96th Street, say, on the East Side. There wasn't a piece of garbage on the street, and there weren't robberies and murders anymore. And that's back in that area. When I go into that area, and I come down 2nd Avenue, down from, like, the Willis Avenue Bridge in Harlem, I'm ankle deep, like, in paper and garbage, and it's like chaos. It's weird.
Yeah, I mean,
in East New York.
Yeah, because broken windows, part of it was even addressing graffiti, you know, and just any minor crime, and it really cleaned it up by the mid to late 90s. It's so sad to see it go back to the way it was.
So what's the attitude in the NYPD now? I'm sure you have people and friends. Is everyone trying to retire? Are they discouraged from enforcing the law, or you know? And the homeless population. Tell us a little bit about what's going on in New York now.
Oh, well, David, I mean, I retired right after 9/11. As a matter of fact, I'm going to a memorial tomorrow for my partner who died at 9/11. He died 2 years after for brain cancer because we were lied to, saying the air was nothing wrong with the air.
Yeah.
But so I'm a little bit disconnected. Obviously, I still have friends and whatnot, but I will tell you
personally, what do you want to see happen? You know, like what would be the strategy to get back to it?
I mean, I'll leave that for you guys, but I'll tell you this though: the good cops that I know, the cops who don't want to, the cops who took the job because they wanted to make a difference, they're scared to do anything. And unless it's a robbery or a rape or a murder, they're probably going to stay in their patrol car because they're too scared.
I lost one of my good buddies growing up, Pete Brennan in Rescue 4 in the Towers. And, you know, my family lost 81 clients. It's affected everybody in our lives. You know, another 1,600 EMS and police have died since 9/11 from disease, you know. And that doesn't include probably thousands and thousands of other deaths, right, of people breathing in all those chemicals. So very sad.
Yeah, we got lied to. Yeah, we sure did.
All right, so let's talk about your movie career. What was the movie you made already, and where can people find it?
The movie it was actually followed. It was loosely based on my real events that really happened to me. It was about a police officer who saw all the dark side of humanity and just went into a deep valley of depression, and then he started questioning, among other things, the existence of God. And so he did what he would do on his in his police days. He investigated it from a police perspective. Does God exist? Does Jesus Christ exist? And whatnot. And the main name of the movie is aptly titled The Investigator. It was made a few years ago, and it just got re-released on PureFlix streaming station, and hopefully, you know, people, when they watch it, they can, you know, get something out of it. And
I love the messaging, and you also taught in Christian school, right?
I taught 9 years in Christian high school.
So tell us about, we have about a minute and a half, tell us about your new endeavor, and when are you going to be finished?
Okay, so just following that movie up with something called Hope House. It's about drug addiction and rehabilitation, and it tries to bridge a gap. Basically, it tries to bridge a gap between that community and the police community, and just hopefully, you know, just it will achieve that purpose, because, you know, police, believe it or not, police do care, and they just want to try and do the right thing.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and I have some experience with Hope House Ministries. Is it loosely based on that story of you know, Father Frank?
Yeah, Port Jefferson. Yes, Father Frank.
A wonderful operation here on Long Island, New York. But you know, there's a lot of problems with a lot of people, and they need help. And there's PTSD, and suicide rates up from COVID and drug addiction. We lost 91,000 people so far this year from drug overdoses in this country.
Yeah.
Rich, I want to thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and we'll have some fun in the future, right? And
I'll tell my brother you said hello and showed his clip.
All right, sounds good. And you don't ever want to play golf with me because I cheat a lot. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
Dave.
Everybody, this is David Zere. You're watching Breaking Point on Real America's Voice News. Catch us this weekend, tonight, actually, in Iowa, for the best coverage on the Trump rally in Des Moines, Iowa. We expect tens of thousands of people to show up. This is David Zere. We'll see you next week, and stay tuned. I got some great guests coming up, so thank you again.